Hello students of Brighton, you're listening to On The Radar with me, Tom Cox. I'm currently here at Concorde 2 and I'm lucky enough to be joined here by Kai and Dom from Mount Kimbie. How are you fellas?
Oh yeah.
Good.
We're good.
Yeah, very good.
Good to hear guys. So guys, how are you feeling about performing in Brighton this evening?
Oh, Dom?
Very excited.
Tom's homecoming.
Yeah, my parents live in Salting and I've moved my stuff down from London, so I'm living here at the moment as well. It's nice to be playing nearby.
Brilliant. I was going to say actually, you yourself are a Brighton native. How did you cross paths?
I've been living in Brighton for about 3 months before I moved up to London to go to university. And we met because we were living in the same halls of residence.
And is it true you guys dropped out of university?
I did, yeah.
Did you ever think it would be a big risk at all, or?
Not particularly. I appreciate this is university radio, but I definitely felt that I was getting stupider every day that I went, and paying money for it, and it just wasn't right for me. So no, it seemed like the right. I don't know whether it seemed like the right thing to do, but it was. I don't know. It worked out in the end. I rang my mum and said I'm dropping out of uni. I'm going to make music for a year and see what happens. And she said great. So
Wow.
Big up mum.
And so let's begin proceedings by talking about your most recent release, Cold Spring Faultless Youth, which was released back in May of this year. You received a lot of praising reviews amongst a number of music publications. Are you pleased with its performance so far?
Yeah, I think. I don't know what. It's funny when you're involved in making a record. Obviously, by the end of it, you have quite serious tunnel vision and blinkers on. There's a couple of tracks that I thought would probably reach top 5 of the UK singles chart, which obviously didn't happen. But that's just because we got sucked into the world of making that record, and then it's only after you finish it and have a bit of time away from it that you realise it's actually quite a strange piece of work. But no, absolutely happy with everything career-wise. There's always ways that you can look at it's more interesting than anything else, like why a record, how the momentum of a record works, and how you can do things differently next time or whatever. So, but I think most of the time, by the time you finished it, it's kind of leading you rather than the other way around. So it's just a separate beast.
And how did the writing and construction of this album differ to your previous release, Crooks and Lovers?
Well, this one was very much more of a process of. We had the album in mind, when we were writing music, and I think last time, on the first album, we knew we were making an album, but it was very much of we were very enthusiastic to get it done and just get this record out, and even though maybe it seems like a more cohesive record, it was kind of a bit more thrown together, I guess, really. Whereas this one, we had more space and a little bit more time to just explore a bit further into what we could do, and I guess at the end of it, I think we both feel like it's a kind of a more personal record and a little bit closer to the end goal of what we want to achieve.
And what are your biggest influences? This can be either musical or non-musical.
Biggest influences. To be honest, when we were writing the album, I tried not to listen, or just didn't have time to listen to anything, just listen to bits of sound that we'd recorded and ideas that we had. So any influence tend to come from surroundings and people that I know, and friends and family and stuff like that.
Okay.
But there were a couple of influences that people. One album that we listened to a lot was the album by Mikachu and the Shapes, and I'm trying to think back to what was going on at the time.
There's little ones that when you're in the studio that you listen to that there's albums that make you want to make music, like Actress and that Lee Gamble record and stuff like that make you want to just work.
Yeah.
And then I think the actual influence for the songs and stuff is probably stuff that's happened in the last 3 years and just slowly permeating through your consciousness, and then for some reason you something stays in there, but you know, we it's not like we're like, oh, we should want to make a record like Pikachu in the Shape or something like that, but it's somebody that's inspiring, or
Understandable. And you released the album through Warp Records. They're a label that pioneers and champions the British electronic scene. Do they have a lot of input on the album, or they just let your creativity run free?
Yeah, absolutely no input. They just gave us a bunch of money, and I'm kidding, they didn't give us that much money, but the reason that we kind of worked with them one of the reasons that we worked with them is because the conversation never came up about what the record was going to sound like. You know, it was just a case of allowing us to go off and do our thing, and then talk about, like, the only conversation we had was like to do with like timescale and stuff like that. So yeah.
Brilliant. And the record actually features King Cruel on 2 tracks, who performed in Brighton just last month. How did you get involved?
He was somebody that we were just very excited about his music, and felt like it would work stylistically, and we lived pretty close together, so I went to a show that was near where we lived, and we used to see him down our local pool hall that we would frequent, which is not somewhere that you would imagine top A-list British music celebrities such as ourselves and Archie hanging out, but that is the harsh realities of Peckham. And so it wasn't like a A&R meeting or anything. He just came down to the studio, which was basically a short bus ride from his house, and it was super cash. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
And you just returned from an extensive tour in the US, and now you're onto your European leg. Would you say there's a difference between crowds in America as opposed to Europe?
It really. It's such a big country that it just differs state to state in the same way that it differs country to country in Europe. Yeah. So some of the major cities are sick, and then some of the smaller cities are also good, but lots of weird people in small towns.
Chicago's our least favourite place to play in the entire world, I think, maybe.
What would you say is a favourite?
Austin, New York.
Mexico City was
Mexico,
sick,
Mexico was great. Yeah.
Scaled far then.
Some places are just inexplicably, silent.
Yeah. There's a weird... and they're enjoying it, but they just don't give anything, they just watch, very, very passive audiences. But, I mean, that didn't happen too often. It's Chicago, and then there's some places in the UK which are like that as well. London can be like that, and New York can be like that, but it was a really good show this time. And
does touring ever have an influence on your music?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we work on quite a few. Well, we try and do work when we're sound checking and stuff, and work out new ideas. And some of them are from, adding layers to already existing songs. But in terms of writing, I think we I mainly get inspiration from seeing other people play, because we see a lot of people play when we're on the road. And for example, we had John Wayne and a guy called Deej, who was supporting us on the US tour, and both of those guys were, real inspirations, and just made me want to make music.
Brilliant. And the pinnacle question as ever: what does the future hold for Mount Kimbie?
The rest of the year is just touring. We've had our 5 days off now, so we're locked in until Christmas, and then a little sojourn down to Australia in the new year, and then next year we'll be cracking on with, in theory, making another record, So
it's no resting.
Well, making a record is kind of cool. That's like, I'd do that if I had to work another job anyway. So yeah.
That's the way. Dom, Kai, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time, and good luck with tonight's show.